Let's look at the new book on David Bowie, The Search for Life, Death and God by Peter Ormerod. Let's go, guys.
Interstellar night space, no one else sees.
Hi guys, we'll have a little chat now a little bit about amazing book that my brother wrote. It's been released about 6 months ago. It's called David Bowie and the Search for God, Death, Life and God, as they say. It's an amazing book, seriously. And it's one of the latest in the stream of amazing publications about David Bowie's life. And over the last few decades, seriously, since he kind of got into music late 1960s. This is an interesting take from Peter Ormerod, as I say, on Bowie's life. Interesting look at the whole situation of his spirituality and Bowie having a quest, as I say, quest during his life, particularly from 1960s through to 2000s when he passed away in 2016. The kind of quest for kind of spirituality and Bowie's life, and Peter kind of reads into it as though really Bowie's course in music for the 40 odd years or so of his career really is actually a kind of search, a quest for life, death and God, basically is what Peter's really saying in the book. Great book to say. It's quite a long book. It's about 400 pages long. Very interesting. There's a nice thing, a different kind of aspect, different kind of perspective on Bowie and Bowie's life, as I say, with this. And it's an extraordinary book. I've really enjoyed reading it myself. I definitely recommend it to you, read it. As I say, it's been out 6 months and it comes out, grab a copy yourself from Waterstones, Amazon, those kind of places. But what is the book about, and how does Peter Ormerod deal with the amazing life of Bowie through perspective, through the light of spirituality and quest for God? So we never know if David Bowie in his career, looking at all those 20 plus albums he made in the 70s, 80s, 90s and so on, but David Bowie really was someone who was spiritual or not, whether he believed in God or not. I don't really know, and even the book, we're not really sure what he really believed ultimately, how religious he really was. And so one minute he's saying he's religious, then he's not very religious and so on. So it's quite difficult, even look at sort of those 4 or 5 decades, so the last parts of his life, exactly how spiritual, how religious David Bowie was. But certainly there are certain aspects of his life that are marrying into religion, as saying Peter searches this throughout this extraordinary book he's written on Bloombury books. And I say, so Bowie's early career, Pete kind of looks at this interesting. Bowie's early career, he looks at Space Oddity and the early kind of years, and Bowie indulging in stuff, living in South East London, Bromley area when he grew up, school, that kind of stuff, how he got involved with local church. He's a choir boy in local church, and he was exposed to Christianity, Anglicanism, Christianity at quite a young age, and I think had an interest in it, Peter sort of says. And then he went on later on in the 60s, psychedelic period, found of American music, like everything from the Beatles to Velvet Underground and so on, and those kind of artists, Iggy Pop as well, and the Stooges. Bowie loved all that kind of American stuff more than British stuff in some ways. And Bowie kind of like indulged in interesting things, for the time being a Buddhist, actually, Tibetan Buddhist, actually, late 1960s, trying to find a quest of spirituality, meaning, when he was living in London. And then, of course, when he got into his albums, he kept on writing at times, at various reference points in his work, kind of spiritual stuff. And it's not all Christian stuff, it's not Anglican Christian stuff, it's actually all kinds of stuff from Buddhism to other things. And something that's really quite weird, actually, as Peter kind of points out in the book. If you look at obviously, the song Space Oddity, of course, is Major Tom character going off to a kind of spiritual space to heaven or whatever it is. And there's many readings of that song Space Oddity from 1969, and Peter talks about that, and Kierkegaard and people's interpretations of that song, whether it's to do with psychedelia, the 60s especially with psychedelia, acid trips, that kind of stuff, mixed spirituality. It's very interesting. And then of course we look at other things in the book, including stuff like Hunky Dory, the album 1971 album David Bowie wrote. On the cover he's looking like he's wearing Aleister Crowder's uniform as he sings in the song Quicksand. He references Aleister Crowder. He was a kind of occultist of the early 20th century, British occultist, and he references that, and also the New Dawn and various people to do with those alternative spirituality, something based on Glastonbury, actually, southwest England, and that sort of stuff. I think Bowie played Glastonbury, did in 1971 himself. So Peter kind of looks at those areas, Quicksand, the song, and interesting alternative kind of spirituality, which seems to be a running line of Bowie's life. And we go through the albums, of course, Ziggy, Stardust, 1972, Bowie's biggest career piece, really, Ziggy Stardust, and in which Bowie himself portrayed himself as a sort of alien rock god, didn't he? Kind of alien spiritual figure, almost like a rock god or something, come to Earth. He was like a superb alien figure. He wasn't earthly. He was sort of magic, spiritual kind of figure, wasn't he? When he played Ziggy Stardust, that massive hit album in 1972, probably the biggest album of Bowie's career, along with maybe Let's Dance. And of course, Peter looks at things. It's interesting going through the albums, as I say, because it's not always clear if there's much spirituality, obsession with spirituality on the albums. Diamond Dogs, Loud Insane. There's a lot of stuff. There's all kinds of rock and roll and sex and everything else as it comes in those albums, as you expect. Even like Orwellian stuff, George Orwell stuff in 1984 in the album Diamond Dogs. Peter gets onto it really interesting in about 1976 period. David Bowie lived in Los Angeles, and Bowie said he had spiritual trouble when he was there, emotional spiritual trouble in Los Angeles, 1975-76. There's also, he references interesting weird obsession with the Kabbalah, which is some mystical the Eastern religion, the Kabbalah or something, the Stations of the Cross, the Kabbalah or something, and this is referenced in the song Station to Station, 1976, as Bowie did for 10 minutes, and also Bowie also obviously is open about drugs and apparently about addictions in the song Station to Station, released in 1976, one of his key songs. And also there's a song called A Word in the Wing from the album Station to Station, which is a song, sounds like a prayer, doesn't it? Lord, offer you my word in the wing. And again, it's Peter's looking at ideas, perceptions about how Bowie's interested in making a prayer in a song with Word in the Wing, which was released I think in 1976 on the album Station to Station, one of Bowie's key albums. But the spiritual difficulties and the problems Bowie had, apparently living in Los Angeles, apparently he had hallucinations, that kind of stuff, whether it's to do with problems, isolation, spiritual issues, drugs, whatever it was to do with. It's very interesting. Bowie in 1977 ran away from America, went to live in Berlin, didn't he? I think England, France and then Berlin. In 1977 wrote about 3 albums over there in that area, Low Heroes and Lodger, as probably all know. Lodger's more like a travelogue, isn't it, of his time in the late 70s with his son. But I think also Bowie does look at very humanness, actually quite human issues in albums like Low and Heroes, Lost Lovers, and I think having a wife, being my wife in the album Low and so on. So it's difficult some to see where spirituality bit comes into that. Peter looks into that. Also, Peter does look very interested in 1983 album Modern Love, the song Modern Love from Let's Dance, and Peter relates that, interestingly, to Gnosticism, a religious practice of Gnosticism, and about God and man's relationship, God and man, God and man, God and man, and how the simplicity of God and man's actual relationship in a way, without the complications of complex religion. It's Gnosticism is a pure kind of belief system, and I think Peter thinks it's Modern Love, the song, which is a very pop song actually, is about Gnosticism, and Peter writes about that. It's all interesting, all open to interpretation, of course. There's no definite. It's all like with Bowie's music, it's so multi-layered, so complex, and why it's lasted for so many decades. People love David Bowie's music years and years later. It is multi-dimensional, isn't it? It's multi-dimensional, and there's a lot to say, and also interesting stuff like that. Bowie's Peter, Modern Love is an interesting song. Is it about changes in attitudes to sex and marriage and religion in the early 1980s, the sex revolution? Is it about that and Thatcherism era, or is it not about that? Is it about Gnosticism? It's for you to read into, for you to interpret when you read Peter's book. And also, Peter writes a bit about Let's Dance, Bowie's biggest song of his career, Let's Dance. Let's Dance, that song that Bowie, massive hit, wasn't it? Global hit for 1983. But that song itself is a bit more about the problems of politics of early 80s, isn't it? The Last Dance, nuclear war, nuclear holocaust, the issues of the Cold War that were rising very heavily in 1983. Big themes of the day. Themes also, other artists at the time, Frank Goes to Hollywood had those themes, didn't they? Two Tribes. Ultravox had those themes. So Dancing with Tears in My Eyes, those songs. So Let's Dance is a upbeat pop song. It's also appears to be about pretty much about things like racism, Cold War, that kind of stuff as well. So very interesting Peter writes about all these things, and though Peter goes through the albums very interestingly and the commercial success of that starts, he does trying to find the angles on religion. I think the only thing that people might think is that in a book about this wonderful book Peter's written, and it's a brilliant book, it's one of the most inventive and clever books written, and the brilliance of David Bowie, one of the best artist writers of the 20th century, no doubt, came out of the UK, global artist, bigger than many of the British artists really. And yet, at the same time, it's interesting. People may have different views about all this, and maybe thinking you could say Peter's evangelising David Bowie a little bit, but also it is interesting. There is genuinely evidence of spiritual quests and interest in the work. Certainly, of course, I think if you're looking at obviously "Ash to Ash" is a song. Very interesting. It looks like a reflection of the 1970s and the Major Tom character. Strung out the heavens high and this sort of stuff, and perhaps Major Tom's a junkie, those sort of lyrics, is that David Bowie talking about himself being a junkie, a junkie of the 1970s, you have to read into it, don't you, as I say. Also the stuff like Loving the Alien from 1984, again, that seems quite a religious song about religion, isn't it? I think Middle Eastern religion and that kind of stuff. Also loving the alien, as the song says, loving the unknown, loving the mysterious, obsessed with mysterious, just like with Ziggy Stardust. Bowie's greatest work, Ziggy Stardust, the idea of the alien, of the different, the unknown area, the exploration, the quest, and perhaps Loving the Alien from mid-80s is about it, isn't it? And Peter does write really well about that as well. In the late 80s, of course, Bowie's career seems to take a little bit of a lesser good path. I think that Never Let Me Down and those Day and Out, it wasn't great success. Tin Machine, it wasn't a great success for Bowie. In the 1990s, he got a bit more back on it with critical success with Black Tie, White Noise and Outside album. And though Outside does seem quite interesting, quite dark, and certainly imagery, weird imagery in that, but things like Knossos and the Minotaur that sort of appears in the artwork on the Outside. This is all, as I say, it's all views, opinions and interests. No definitive statements about Bowie's spirituality. It's very interesting. Look at David Bowie's interest in spirituality, faith and religion, and also interesting. Peter does bring in the book is also, of course, about the 1992 Freddie Mercury concert. Of course, Bowie appeared with the Eurythmics and in Lennox on stage, didn't he? Of course, and he got on his knees and he prayed the Lord's Prayer, didn't he? Of course, the Lord's Prayer. He said on stage at the concert. I think it was AIDS benefit concert, and David Bowie got on his hands and knees. It was extraordinary. Some people thought it was amazing. Some people probably thought it was a bit embarrassing. I don't know what people thought about it, but it was a major a very big reference point in Bowie's career. Doing a big prayer on stage. I think a billion people watching it or something, was it? So it was extraordinary that David Bowie did that back in 92, wasn't it? Freddie Mercury tour. We all love Freddie Mercury, don't we? We all love Bowie, we all love Freddie Mercury, we all love it all. We all loved all that stuff. We all found it very interesting, and Peter writes really well about it in the book. And also going on a bit later, but Peter writes really well about the last few albums of Bowie's career. I mean, certainly, a lot of music isn't always obviously about spirituality, religion. It does seem about many things, very humanistic things at times, human problems and issues that everyone has. I think if you look at Heathen Night in 2002, that Heathen record, Bowie appears without any eyes, doesn't he, on the cover? What's that about, and is he channeling something inside, channeling something else? Is he saying, I'm a vessel for something else, channel through me? He sings in the song Heathen Rays, looking for someone, looking for something, looking for someone, and he's trying to find something again. He's getting to 60 years old. He's still looking, still trying to find the answers. I think the other song he sings, I'm the loneliest guy, I'm the loneliest guy. One of the songs, Reality was it, album 2003, I'm the loneliest guy. He sings on stage. I saw Bowie perform that myself actually at Birmingham NEC Arena. Was it 2003? I saw that. Bowie was about nearly 60. Bowie was about 60, I think 60, nearly 60 years old at the time, but coming to 60 years old. And I remember him doing Lonely Sky, and it's Bowie, multi-million-dollar rock star living in New York, married to Iman, wasn't it? And it had a little baby, didn't he? And he's going on, I'm the loneliest guy. Is that about himself, about somebody else? Is it about finding being an outsider, feeling outside? It's those interesting themes of searching that goes through Bowie's life, and Peter brings up in this brilliant book, David Bowie and the Search for Life, Death and God. And it's very interesting indeed. I'm not going to go too deeply into it. I'm just skimming through the surface of all this stuff, really. And again, I think the last album's interesting. Bowie reappeared 2013 with The Next Day. That was Bowie's, of course, musically, the albums are very different. We know that starts disco. We know Diamond Dogs is rock and roll, isn't it? And it's very, it's almost like jam style punky rock and roll on The Next Day 2013, opposed to the more glittery music and Brian Eno LA music of Outside and Heathen. The Next Day album 2013, Bowie emerged from almost like an exodus, disappearance, and again on that he made a video which is full of religious imagery, interesting stuff, but it's not clear whether he's celebrating it or whatever he's doing with it. It's full of kind of religious imagery, as though he's trying to raise questions, finding more questions than answers. But he does put imagery like that into the video, I think, Next Day. And also Blackstar, last album 2016, very sadly released a few days after he died, January 2016. I remember it really, really well. Love that record, and it's a very dark record. And Blackstar, it's a long song, isn't it? A bit like Station. The song about he sang in Station, as I say, bureaucracy, establishments, didn't he? And about proper addiction and stuff in that song. And this song, Blackstar. It's a long piece looking at the potential of what's going to happen in death. He's obviously very sadly palliative care, living in New York, and the song, he does seem to depict in the video Major Tom, doesn't he, with the helmet on, pulls Major Tom's helmet off, and there's a skull. What's that? Is that Bowie himself? Is it talking about himself and death, himself facing death, of course? And obviously at the time, Bowie very sadly passed on at the time, didn't he? And it's Bowie singing about that in the song. Also, very the Lazurus song, Bowie was making a musical of that, wasn't he? Lazurus 2016. Again, him in the hospital bed. Lying there, look at me, I'm in heaven, as though he's already passed on. I'm in heaven, and he's reflecting again. Is there heaven? Is there afterlife or not an afterlife? Is it ironic? What's that about? What do you think that's about? Lazarus, the biblical character Lazarus, raised by Jesus Christ from the dead. Is that redemption? Why is Bowie singing about Lazarus? It's an interesting choice of lyric, interesting theme, isn't it? And the video of that reminds me of the 1984 video Loving the Alien, when he's in the hospital bed and there's goes through a psychedelic experience in the bed, but psychedelia. Is Bowie singing about that or tripping off? I don't know. It's all very interesting. The ultimate trip is to heaven, isn't it? The ultimate trip. But anyway, it's all very interesting stuff. A lot of themes in these pieces. I'm not going to say, I'm skimming the surface of this. There's a lot to say. Looking through the huge through line of Bowie's work. Peter does a brilliant job in this book going through this work. It's extraordinary what Peter's written. It's a really great book, and it's very interesting just looking at the reviews. Dr. Paul Fuller of University of Edinburgh says this book is monumental, compelling and profoundly original. For anyone whose life was transformed by Bowie's music, or who wishes to gain understanding deeper ramifications of Bowie's ideas, then this wonderful book is essential reading. It's by Dr. Paul Fuller, University of Edinburgh. And it's very interesting indeed, as I say. The whole book's really great. Peter Ormerod, journalist, author, works for The Guardian, fantastic author. He's also my brother, so I want to promote the book and say a little bit about it. Maybe I'll do an interview with Peter about it as well, raising his ideas about it. It's just a fascinating, wonderful read. Or nearly 400 pages of this book. It's just wonderful to read it. I really found it really fascinating. Peter's done a brilliant job going through it, and I found it utterly fascinating and compelling to read it. And get yourself down to the bookstores and get all a copy of it. David Bowie and the Search for Life, Death and God. What a brilliant book, looking at a very interesting angle at the quest of Bowie's life, separating him a little bit from other rock stars, other artists in the sort of quest he had. So I think it's a wonderful, unique and brilliant book. Do try and get a hold of it. It's available right now, guys. David Bowie and the Search for Life, Death and God. Go and grab yourself a copy. Please subscribe as always to my channel. Please do, guys. Please subscribe. Please like the videos. I've got a channel of 800 videos. I do a magic and illusions. Peter writes books. I do magic and illusions, and so, as I say, do subscribe to the channel. 800 videos of magic illusions. Please do. Maybe I'll do a bit more looking at the music and rock stars myself on my channel in the future. Love you all, guys. Subscribe. Do get this book. It's fantastic. Love you all, and bye for now.